Alright guys, this guy has his basing at a pretty good stage, but I need to get it painted. This is a Terminator Chaplain for my Blood Angels successor chapter army. A couple things we'll be doing today. We're going to be painting this whole thing. This is an example of what my basing scheme looks like for my Blood Angels successor army. Bits of sand in there. Anyway, I'm using glass, broken glass bits for this, and this is actually some real wood. It's painted, but then I'm also using sand. I won't be using the wood on this. There's no wood on the base, in case you can't see. Anyway, that's what we're going for. We're aiming for this, but on this, on this. And I made the unfortunate mistake of magnetizing this guy's hands, because I thought that was a great idea. And it's cool, sure, but in hindsight, like, this just looks really derpy. So yeah, it's too small to get double magnets on there. Anyway, we're just gonna take those off. I suppose a different shape of magnet, I don't, whatever. Anyway, don't mind the fact that he is armless right now. For basing, I use cheap acrylics, gray and green. I have some light green that I use to touch up the grass. I then come in with some strong tone over the top of everything to give it a nice dark shade, and I will dry brush the stones with matte white to catch some of those edges. I like to start with the grass because I can always come back to clean up the rocks afterwards if I get some green on them. As you can see, I've got a layer of dark brown underneath all of that so that I don't have to do this part of it all perfect. I really do try not to get anything on the model at this stage though, especially considering that would show up quite harshly on his black armor. Look at this side now. I realized to some people this probably just looks like a bunch of green little pebbles. There are many ways to do grass effects, and this is just what I figured out on my own, and I personally like the look of it. You can't really tell that it's just sand from like 2 feet away. And I'm not using a big dry brush for this just because there's not enough space for it, even though I am kind of doing like what some might consider to be a dry brush technique. And again, this isn't the model that I'm actually painting, so it doesn't have to be perfect, and this is only the first stage of the whole process. I like to imagine that my Blood Angels fight their battles in a stony field, akin to maybe the Irish foothills. There are foothills in Ireland, right? If you're from Ireland, you have to like the video. Is that good? We missed a spot. Swish, 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 swish. Nice and clean. Nice and clean there. Oh, that's bad. Gotta take good care of your tips, guys. Take good care of your tips, like your mom takes care of mine. And this is gonna look pretty flat at this stage because I'm literally just coming in with gray. And that's fine. Again, that brown undercoat is very, very forgiving. There's a teeny tiny little bugger right there. That'll do. Any of these empty spots here on the base, I can also come in with gray or whatever, and it will just look like the surface is made of. It'll look better in the end, I promise. Yeah, that's pretty good. This bit here is actually supposed to be silver. Okay, that is phase 1. Now we have to let this dry before we come in with our wash. Otherwise, this paint is all just gonna come right off. So we're gonna let this sit for a little bit. All right, this guy's ready for a strong tone wash. I like using these style of brushes with a little bit more loose tip for washes. Just helps get it spread out evenly. And we apply it pretty liberally, and I'm not really putting a lot of pressure, just in case there are any spots where paint hasn't fully dried. That's happened to me before. Get it all over, spill some on the base for good measure. And this is a very, very dense section back here. To be quite honest with you, we need a little bit more. Yeah, for good measure. This is bringing back some of that earthiness base coat of brown gave us, but really the effect is meant for these stones. Now at this stage, it's okay if the stones are looking very dark, because again, I'm going to come back with some dry brushing to highlight all the edges once this all dries. Yeah, let the paint dry. Yeah, that doesn't really work. While we're waiting, time to clean up the hobby desk. We're not dry yet. While we're waiting for that, I will actually show you this guy, who also is in some late stage of close to being doneness. He needs a black base rim though, and his base is otherwise complete with some other doodads and bobs. So let's do that while we wait for the Chaplain to dry. For base rims, I like Vallejo black. Nice, happy little base rim on this guy. Everybody likes a good rimming. And I don't mind if any of this stuff actually comes over the edge of the base, but I just paint it black. Home stretch. I have that bottom edge. This model was based in a lighter color, so I'm not going to assume that the bottom edge is going to be perfectly black, where it might be unpainted. Looking pretty good right there. That dries very matte, so it won't be that shiny when it's done, but that's what a completed base is going to look like once we finish with this guy. He's still not dry. All right, he is dry, and we're ready to do some dry brushing on there and finish up this base. So Army Painter Matte White is what I use. The rocks. There's only a few rocks on here, so I'm gonna be pretty selective. I usually use a stiffer dry brush, but I'm trying this one. In this case, pretty subtle, maybe hard to see on camera. Just want all the edges of that glass to stand out. So there we go. You can see that it's kind of brought those edges back to the gray that we had before. And now to touch up the grass, I use this kind of lighter green. And I'll just come through and add a few little splotches here and there. I don't even do this across the whole thing. Less is more. Happy little leaves, or happy blades of grass, or whatever you want to imagine these are. That gives us some good variation on the green parts of the grass. A little hard to see on camera maybe, but it's there. Visually you can see it. Adds a little bit of interest to it, so it's not all the same color. We are going to add a tuft here. Let's see where a good spot would be. Right in there. Is it bad? Between his feet? I don't know how I think about it. I feel that though. Yeah, right there's not bad. Add some visual interest to this side of the miniature and basing the edge with Vallejo black. It's already pretty dark, so I'm really just coming in and giving it one nice coat, touching up anywhere where the green spilled over. And again, I personally don't mind having this on the side of my base. I know that drives some people insane. Personally, it doesn't bother me. It's kind of like if you play Magic: The Gathering, where they have the cards where some of the art extends out of the frame. Okay, it's not as cool as that because this is like little pieces of sand, but it's like that. It gives the impression that the terrain extends beyond the base. That's why the base is black. Not because there's nothing there, but because this is the border frame around this particular miniature. There we go. So there he is, his base complete for the most part. Maybe a few little touch-ups. Let me know. Of course, he's gonna do the derpy little flip of the wrist there. Perfect way to end the video. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.